Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Sam Page and Jennifer Rurka. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And the color of the day is green because we are joined today by a New York Times bestselling author whose book is called Gorgeously Green. Of course, that's not the only thing we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But I just wanted to, put out word to everybody. If you don't have anything green on, I actually don't, so I have to find something. But I have a green screen. How about it? I got a green screen behind me. That's pretty good, So today is green. Today's all about the green. And, if you don't have your green on, well, you're just not with the program. That's all there is to it. But no, Sophie Uliano is joining us today. And Sophie, first of all, thank you for joining us from Los Angeles, where I think it's a whole lot warmer than it is right here in Hartford, Connecticut. I hope it is, I would think.
It is. Oh, yeah.
That's good.
It's
That's
cold.
a good thing. Yeah. So, and I think we just lost Sam for a minute. Oh, he's got audio problems, so he's going to reconnect. Okay. So while he's reconnecting, Sophie, give us like a little bit of biography. How did you get to the point where you decided to write your book? And I know that there's stuff that you've been through, so give us a feel for what has been in the life of Sophie Uliano.
Oh, gosh. Well, thank you. Thrilled to be here, and please cut me off if I talk too much, because I really do mean that.
We've been fairly warned.
Yeah. You have full permission to interrupt, by the way. So let's see. So I think your question was kind of a little bit of kind of why I wrote my first book and how I got into it, I think. So really, I think like most of us, all roads led to, a certain time of our life where I felt a calling and a pull to do something, to share a message, basically. And the message that I wanted to share and communicate at that time, which was way back 2008 when I wrote my first book, or 2007 when I wrote it, was very much this wake-up call for really primarily for women, but to really motivate women to take care of themselves and the environment in a different way. And so understanding this was before, by the way, being green or sustainable or anything like that was trendy. It was so untrendy at the time. It wasn't even funny. It was like, if you were talking about kind of green living, you were thinking compost toilet, off the grid, slightly strange, weird people, that kind of deal. And so my mission at that time was like, I want to make this so fun and engaging and gorgeous and just, everybody just wants to do it. And so that's why I wrote my book, because I understood the connection between health. As a woman at the time, I had a very, small child, and I was a young mother. And I just understood the connection between our health and the environment. And honestly, that there is no separation. The two are so closely related. And so I became very, very passionate about that.
That's very good. Very cool. And you'd also gone through some stuff of your own back when you first started having children. Tell us that story.
Well, when I first had my daughter, I was when I was pregnant, actually. This was before the age of kind of too much Googling and searching and all of that business. It was, my daughter's 21 now, so we're talking like 21 years ago. It's just amazing, isn't it, to think how things have changed.
It happens fast, right?
Oh my gosh. And I just got the sense that something was off, that everything was not quite right. And particularly as a pregnant woman, when you become so hypersensitive to what's around you, what you're putting in your body and what's around you, I got the feeling that, there's a few things that happen that I'm like, this is a little scary. And so I started researching in what little way you could at the time. And as I started uncovering and going down that rabbit hole, then really I'm a researcher at heart. My passion is research. And that's really driven all of my books. And that research took me to a place where I really understood that we have this body burden, and that the body burden, our children, our babies are born with a body burden. There's really no getting away with it in this environment that we now live in. and really, how can we minimize that?
Okay. And it was motivated in part because of your own experience, but also in part because of the research you were doing. It sounds like it was a combination of the two.
It was, because I think, like everything, when we understand something, right, and when we educate us, education is everything. It's just like, what, really? Oh my, what? But and really, I was lucky, Walt, because when I was researching, and the kind of research I did, it was really before the kind of internet, the sort of information overload. So there weren't too many kind of crazy places to go with misinformation. It was really like you went to PubMed, you went to very credible sources of evidence-based science. So I was lucky that I didn't have those distractions. It was really, but I've always been that way. It's just like I'm very driven to get to the bottom of the evidence-based science as it pertains to pretty much everything.
And what was it all that you were studying? Like, were you studying for eating, working out? Like, what all?
Oh, that's a great question. At first, it was really studying the effects on really chemicals in the environment, or pollutants in the environment, and how they can affect how we pour those pollutants out there unwittingly, and how it comes back at us, because it's in our water, it's in our food, it's in our, everything that's in our homes. So that was the first piece of research that I really got into. And then since then, over the last 15 years, I've studied many different areas. I think my biggest passion is food. I'm a board certified nutritionist. And so that's the area that I evolved into, that was the area that I really enjoy, because I love, teaching. I love teaching on how to get into optimal health and through nutrition.
So do you even have recipes that you write about as well? Is it like...
Oh, yes. I've been writing recipes for years. I have a YouTube channel, and I have books and things like that with hundreds and hundreds of recipes. So I'm not a trained chef, but I'm definitely a very passionate cook. And I'm always doing recipe development, because I work with many clients, and so I'm always developing recipes. Like, how can we? And my recipes are always born out of, how can we solve this problem? It's like, right. Either how can we fix? You want this, and you're craving this. Let's make a version that's just absolutely as delicious but super healthy. Or you don't have time, so let's figure that one out. Or so it's all around. I come at everything with, there's a problem, let's solve it. And recipe development, I think, is, for me, is very much like that. Sounds odd, but that's it. And then very often, I love that. I think for all of us, that our seat of creativity, a beautiful seat of creativity always comes out of trying to figure out a challenge, right? So that's the same for me with recipes.
And you're doing a 14-week program as well. I saw online you're doing, right? Yeah. Do you incorporate eating and everything? Like, what's
it is? Absolutely. I would say not the main thrust of it. It's very holistic. So I'm a great believer that you can't just take one area of your life and expect to get a sort of, complete result. So it's all the different areas of somebody's life, because it is holistic. And so it's everything. But I would say that an 80%, if anybody comes to me and they go, look, Sophie, I really, they're suffering with health issues, and many women I speak to really want to release weight. The first very simplistic thing I would say is it is 80% of the heavy lifting is going to be your nutrition.
Yeah.
But I would say that even within that, it's all very well to say that, right? And then most people are like, oh, okay, but what? All right, you say that, and now what? And so there's a way that I specifically put it together, but also there's a lot of mindset required within that, because I believe that it's very it's very hard for somebody to make some significant changes in their life, some significantly healthy changes, particularly in the environment that we live now. And I believe it really does require a massive mindset upgrade, for want of a.
I think Sam and I, we're both waiting for that word. I mean, because we talk about, right, Sam? I mean, we talk about mindset a lot. And so when you brought up, we're like, okay, there it is. Now we got there. I knew it was going to come pretty soon, but there it is.
Honestly, there it is, because there's all the strategies that we can have in the world, it's right. And this has been my own very personal experience as well. But without changing me and knowing that my mindset, dictates my thoughts and beliefs, really dictates 90% of my behavior and creates my world, then without that, I'm really not going to have any kind of long-term results. And that's just the way that it is.
And that's really key too, because until you recognize that, the tendency is to want to look outside of ourselves and say, well, the problem is out there. I got to fix what's out there.
Exactly. 100%. Here's the problem. It's the way that I'm eating, or I'm not exercising enough, or I'm doing the wrong recipes, or I'm, whatever it is. Again, as you said, it's just, that's there. But wait a minute. Let's really look at how you're creating that reality. And also on a much deeper level, it's just, for me, it's really realizing, and what I've really grown to realize and understand, as I've got older, is that my thoughts, my mindset and beliefs, create my body. Of course they do. And that's both scientific and very, much of, in any way you want to look at it, but that's, of course they do. Every thought I have creates a reaction in my body, a hormonal reaction in my body. So my body has become my thoughts.
Yeah. Well, hormonal, emotional, mental. I mean, is there an aspect that isn't involved? It's kind of hard to name one, really.
100%.
Yeah.
So is there a set routine that you do every day, like a ritual that you wake up and you do mantras? Because even just how you speak to yourself, like you're saying, is so important. Right?
That's such a good question. Yeah.
Is there, do you start your day or go about the whole day? Even?
Yeah. So it's absolutely non-negotiable for me. And I have a morning ritual that I do every single morning. It was funny. I heard something I can't remember. It was maybe a Saturday Night Live skit the other day. I think it was on Saturday Night Live. I wish I could remember. And I think it was a sort of Amy Schumer kind of comedy sketch about, almost making fun of a complicated morning mindset ritual kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, you can make fun of that, but if it's life-changing, it's kind of life-changing. And so make fun of it all you want. But yes, so I have a ritual, and I do every single morning. And it is the most important part of my day. It is the most precious part of my day. My life, the wheels fall off the bus without that. In one way or another, even if it's just not having such a great day. So I get up early. I get up at about 5:30, 5:45, which is early for me. And then it starts. And I always do prayer and meditation. Always. That's the most important thing. Really, I think I can encapsulate it into its stillness, its finding stillness. And I used to find that a little bit odd, because it seemed a little counterintuitive, that it's like, wait, you've just been asleep, and that was still, do you know what I mean? And now you're waking up and you're in that alpha brainwave state. But I found that the most powerful time for me to ease into that seat of stillness is when I'm in that alpha brainwave state. So I love it when everything's quiet and it's still a little dark outside and the dogs are still asleep and my husband's still asleep and the house is, and then it's delicious for me. It's like, and then I'll get my hot, green tea or my lemon water or whatever I'm drinking, whether it's, depending on the season. And then I'll sit down and I'll really move into that stillness. And sometimes it's a little bit different because I like variety within that routine, that discipline. So sometimes I will be drawn to a certain book or a certain reading or even something that I've written, and I'm just literally drawn to it, and I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to read it. It's just, to me, it is so beautiful that if the intentionality is there, which it always is for me, and the belief that I always find whatever I need is always brought to me, and it always is. So it's almost like that book. I can be scanning a bookcase and I'll be like, that's what I need this morning. And then I'll open that and do a little bit of reading, and then I'll take that into a meditation. Then I'll do some journaling because I want to anchor things. I like to anchor distinctions. I like to do a little bit of journaling. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And that's how mindset wise I start my day. And then I get into all the other rituals that I do.
That what you described, how you just kind of picked that. You could look over and look on the bookshelf and just pick that book out and know that that's the one that's got the thing. That what you're describing there is what a researcher ultimately learns to do. They learn to tap in, so to speak, and get a sense of, okay, I need to go in this direction. You know, when you're first starting out doing research, you're kind of all over the place. Just, try this, try that, look over there, ask a question, all that kind of stuff. But as you get better and better at it over time, it does become intuitive. And that's what you're describing. You're describing the intuitive side of the research. And it becomes invaluable because now you're getting a whole lot more research done faster than you were getting done before.
Thank you for that. I've never thought about it as being that way, and that's incredibly useful. Thank you. I've never had that perspective on it, but it's so true because as a researcher, you have got to get really probably being a skilled researcher is to really dig in and find the strands that really matter and then put those together. So on a sort of more technical and scientific level, absolutely. But I've never really put that to that mindset piece as well. So that's pretty helpful.
Honestly, that was me tapping internally to what was going on because I really didn't even know I was going to say that, honestly. And I was just really intrigued by what you were saying about, the research, and then you brought this piece in about the mindset, and it just came together in my mind. I didn't pre-form it. There was no note. I didn't have an outline that I was following. It just kind of came together almost as I was saying it. But as I was saying, I said, well, yeah, that's exactly it. So thank you. I appreciate the validation.
And also just building on that and stacking on that is that, we're all researchers. We're all searching. Exactly. Right? And so that, and I think part of that, and what I really teach my clients as well, is to really trust their intuition and to trust I'm going to use this now, or their sort of inner researcher, because and I am so passionate that to move into this place of stillness first is the most important thing, because otherwise, for me anyway, I'm in sort of beta brain, and then it's busy brain, and then because of the world that we live in now, it gets so distracting, and I can be distracted probably like anybody. It's addictive, the distractions, and so now even more than ever, and I've seen this distraction addiction grow within myself over the last 10 years. But now even more so, it's even more important for me just to really dedicate that time, to whatever you will call it, spirit, God, higher self, quietness, silence, consciousness, whatever anybody wants to call it. I think we all know what that is, that we can only access in that place.
Sam is an improvisational pianist, really fantastic pianist. And Sam, as she's describing that, I'm thinking that's part of the mindset you have when you're playing, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like just kind of getting out of my own way, like getting the ego out of the way and just allowing it to kind of flow.
Yeah. And as you do that, you are also a researcher because you're looking for that feeling of, okay, what's the next cadence? What's the next glissando? What's the next musical, essence that you're going to include, because you tie into that intuitively.
Absolutely. Like I never thought of it that way, but as soon as you said that, it's like, yeah, because when I sit down to play, I'm kind of like trying to guess like, oh, did this work? Or has like seeing how different things work and kind of experimenting and feeling it through. Yeah. Love that.
Love that.
Who knew?
Of course, that's what Jennifer does. Jennifer, like you, is also a coach. I mean, so I'm also curious to hear, what kinds of stories you guys have to share between you. But Jennifer, I mean, you tap in too, right? I mean, when you're working with a client, that's you're going inside and you're checking with yourself and saying, okay, where's the next place I need to go?
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, even just picking up a certain book, I'll do that with whatever books are in front of me at the time, but I'll open it like an oracle. And it's like wherever I open it, that's what I'm aligned to hear in that moment, in that particular time. But what I wanted to ask you too, Sophie, is sleep. Like, did you ever have problems with sleeping before you shifted everything around to this holistic lifestyle? And if so, did your sleep get better, or does it with your clients? Do your clients ever come to you with sleep issues?
They do. I would say 50%, if not 60% do, because most of my clients are women who are in perimenopause or menopause. And so then with the shifting hormones, one of the symptoms is disrupted sleep for sure, with hot flashes and goodness knows what else. And I think it's a perfect storm, isn't it, in perimenopause and menopause, because it's not only the hormones and everything, but also our lifestyles, that most women I coach, I'm sure is the same for you, Jennifer, is, they're very, very busy, very stressed, a lot, more than is natural or healthy that we're all contending with in our life. And so, there is sleep disruption for sure. And I'm really, really, I would say adamant for myself. And it's an invitation to my clients to really get that dialed in, because, and it's so interesting you brought that up, Jennifer, because without sleep, if you're in sleep debt, then the thing that I help women with most is with weight releasing unwanted pounds. And there's such a direct correlation between sleep debt and cortisol release, and then that leading to kind of belly fat and midsection, all of that. So it's enormously important. And I think, Jennifer, and you probably, feel the same way as a coach, is that with everything, you can't just say, well, you've got to have more sleep, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to go to sleep. Even you've got to go to bed earlier, or you've got to do all the usual tips, like turn off the blue lights, make your bedroom a sanctuary. And, we know all those tips. It's not rocket science. They're all readily available in almost every book that's ever been written or video on sleep. But the key is to engineer your entire day and to look at all of your circadian rhythms throughout the day, because everything has to be attended to, because everything has a knock-on effect. So it's not just a matter of going to bed earlier. It's how do you set up your entire day? It's almost like the morning is more important. The morning will dictate your evening, and then your evening will dictate your morning. So it's really dialing in both those aspects of your day. But I think bookending the day is very, very important.
Yeah, that's one.
And then there's supplementation, and there's certain things that you can do, strategies that can be very helpful. But I think setting up the bigger picture to do with your circadian rhythms is the most important thing.
I love that, because it is like a cycle. Like, I know for me personally, I'm like you. I got to get up in the morning, and I like to just simply sit in nothing. Actually, one thing I will do is I'll go on YouTube and I'll find different sounds of fire crackling. Like somebody has a fire lit outside, and I just listen to that in the background. So the fire's crackling, and I just close my eyes, and I like to just simply be amidst nothingness, because how often and I'm like you, like I love to pray in the morning. I have conversations with God, or if you want to call it the creator, or meditation. And I do the same thing at night. So like how you were just saying, bookend the day, I was like, so beautiful way to put it, because that's exactly, what I do otherwise I do find my sleep is nuts. I'm up a lot, and I really have to bookend my day like that as well, so that there's this, you're coming out of bed, yes, but it's about setting the intention and grounding back into your body on an energetic level, and then doing further out the day, and then the same thing in the evening. So important.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I have to say, I wish there was a sort of magic, cure for that, which doesn't involve a pharmaceutical, but there's a lot of, tweaking and again, I think almost like for everything, there's not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is so different. Their lifestyle is different. Their physiology is different. Their health is different. So there just simply isn't a one size fits all.
Do you do retreats or anything, Sophie?
I used to before COVID, and I used to do wellness retreats regularly, actually. And, but then I stopped doing them, obviously, in during COVID. But actually, it was actually I'm happy that I did, because what I found was I love wellness retreats. I love them. And it is such a place for connection. It's that in-person connection that's so beautiful and powerful. But the one thing that I found was that women would come on a retreat for maybe 3 days, and then they'd go, oh, that was amazing. And I'm just completely, feel cleansed and reinvigorated and excited and passionate and blah, blah, inspired. Go back, get on a plane, go back to their life. And then within a week, life happens. And then they're just, and it just slowly, just everything goes out of the door. So that's one of the big reasons why I really wanted to create a program which really is about setting up every day and especially setting up your day. Sorry, my dog's, it's not my dog. I thought my dog was there. Setting up your day, especially when things are really going sideways, because that is life, isn't it, for us, and things are going to happen and challenges are going to happen. And so that shift from, everything's perfect and we're here in the desert doing yoga and drinking green juices, and we're all like namaste and everything. And you get back and you face the people and you face the triggers that got you to that bad place in the first place. So my new way is, let's bring that difficult bit in now and let's deal with that.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
That's
Brilliant.
really good.
I agree.
I love that, because what you're really doing is you're saying, I'm not going to try to eliminate these triggers and negative association things and so forth. I'm going to find a way to deal with them and maybe even embrace them, which 100%. Is an entirely different way of looking at it.
Entirely. And I can see Sam, because what we've sort of brought into this conversation a little bit, and I loved it when Sam was talking about the flow of the playing, is that in not resisting them, thank you for saying that, and bringing them in and allowing, then we get to kind of unpack it and tease it out. And I'm sure, Jennifer, for you as a coach, that's very much, what you do as well. But it's really, what I think, way, way back in the day when I was probably, I don't know, my 20s, it was the kind of Louise Hay sort of positive thinking, right? It's like, okay, a positive affirmation right away, and you've got it. And now that couldn't be so far from what I do now, because I believe that those affirmations and mantras and things, while they can be useful, they are negating the negative, which has to be unpacked and dealt with. So there is flow and allowing and embracing, to your word, your lovely word, Walt, in order for the healing to occur.
I also want to mention, I really love your term, release weight. That's very carefully crafted, and I love the way you did that. Yeah.
It's very carefully, because, it was actually a client of mine, and she said it on one coaching call that I do group coaching calls. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she said, Sophie, she said, I've released this weight, which means that it's gone. It's gone. And she said, if I lose something, then I'm going to go and find it again.
Go find it, yes.
And I went, oh my gosh, give me a pen and paper. I've got to write that down now. Because it's so true, isn't it? And the women that I work with, it is. They lose and then they gain, and they lose and then they gain, in this awful cycle. But in order to really release something, you're not just releasing the pounds. Another client of mine really recently said, which was so beautiful. I do a sort of graduation when my clients graduate. And she said, you know, Sophie, she said, in every pound of fat that I released, there was a story.
Ooh. Ooh.
There was a story.
Yeah. Not only was there a story, but there were payoffs. There were trials and tribulations, but there were also joys, and there's a whole bunch of stuff.
And protection, and many reasons for that being there. Exactly. So that's it. Really, that's the crux of it.
What
also,
about
we're talking? I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Jennifer.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
All right. What I was thinking of is when you guys were talking about your morning and evening routines and enjoying the stillness of it and the silence of it. One thing that occurred to me was it's not all that long ago for me, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I had all kinds of chatter going on in my head, and it would happen from the moment that I woke up. Now, I know what I went through and what ultimately worked for me to eliminate that chatter, but I'm curious, first of all, did you have any kind of issues with chatter like that? And if you did, was it the meditation that helped you get rid of that, or was it some other activity? How did you get the chatter out of the way? Because until you get the chatter out of the way, it's not going to be quiet.
Mm-mm. Well, you know, for me, the chatter it's just a thing. And so I think my approach is not to try and get rid of it, but to actually observe it and listen to it and see it. And so I like to observe the chatter. I love to hear what it's saying. So, you know, we have a name for it. We give that part of us in my program a name, because it's often that part of us, whether you want to call it the ego or the, you know, whatever it is, but it is that voice that will, you know, is not very kind a lot of the time. It's
no kidding, really? Oh my goodness. Let's be honest.
And that chatterbox of mine, she does push-ups while I'm sleeping. So I can go to bed with this beautiful intention and affirmation and everything, and then wake up in the morning and first thought is like, it starts. And so for me, what I found, I think, well, I've been meditating for about 30 years. And so and you know, for those, you're all meditators here, I think. And so you know how you sort of go through phases with meditation.
Oh, yeah.
And the only times that I've ever really found meditation unpleasant or struggle is when I go into that phase of any kind of shoulding. Like, I shouldn't be thinking. I should be able to be quiet now. I shouldn't be mad at this person. I shouldn't be, you know, or you know, whatever. And then it's just that then I get back to time and time again that it's just beautiful just to sit in the stillness. And Jennifer, you mentioned it, the presence, and to just be in presence and to observe and watch and see what she's saying, because it's only by seeing what she's saying that I can actually see the ridiculousness of it, the lies, you know, and always questioning. So what I want my clients to do is, you know, a very big part of the work we do together is becoming very aware. It's becoming super, super aware of that, because when you become aware of that, then you can really understand the stories you're telling yourself, and you can really understand the meaning that you're making about things. And it's only by being able to witness and observe that you can change it. So back to that thing of positive thinking. That's why I really do not believe I found that positive thinking, positive affirmations, or trying to get quiet and stop thinking, none of the above work. It just creates more resistance.
Yeah.
Interesting you say that. Yeah, because the method that I used to overcome it, although, like you said, you didn't try to overcome it, but I tried to overcome it. That was my approach. And I did it using mirror exercises, going back to Louise Hay. She's the one who advocated the whole idea of mirror exercises. I've told the story many times. But ultimately that did calm the voice and quiet it to the point where it virtually went away. And I realized why it was. It went away because it was really my own insecurity coming out. And the mirror exercises helped me build up my self-confidence. Well, once you build up your self-confidence, the insecurity kind of disappears. So for me, it was more just a case of the voice stopped torturing me because I felt better about myself.
Can you describe, I'm very curious. One thing I just want to say is when you said that, your kitty cat just, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but put their little paw on your shoulder and gave you this little beautiful nudge. It was so sweet. But I'm curious, can you talk, I'd love to know what exactly specifically, how do you do the mirror exercises?
Well, I've told this before, and I'll tell you how it started because it's my way of making it easier for everybody else to do it. My first day doing mirror exercises went something like this. I love you. Oh God, I can't do this. That was day one. Day two was a little tiny bit better than that. Day three was a little bit better. And after about a week of it, I was feeling a little more comfortable and like I could do it. And okay, I can handle this stuff. By around the second week, I couldn't tell you what it was, but there was something that was changing. By the end of the third week, I had a glimpse of what was changing. The voice hadn't stopped. It had gotten softer. The volume had decreased. And by day 28, it took me a while to recognize it. And I realized, wait a minute, where did the voice go? I was so used to it being around. I just kind of assumed it was always there. And that day it was gone. And it has since come back and gone and come back and gone. And it finally has over time gotten to the point where it's really just me talking with myself. It's not me torturing myself anymore. So because of that, I can now feel like if I want to have the voice, I can have the voice. If I don't want to have the voice, I don't have to have the voice. It's now my choice rather than my victimhood.
That's so beautiful. So you actually say, I love you. You have a mantra where you're actually talking to yourself and saying, I
through gritted teeth the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost, I don't know if you've read, I'm sure you've heard of, but read, it's Mel Robbins' book, I think it's called The High Five. And what she does is sort of, kind of version of that, which is hers is going to the mirror, I think every morning or evening or multiple times a day and literally giving yourself a high five, which is great because we don't, a big part of what I do with my, work on with my clients is really celebrating yourself, because it's so embarrassing and awful and nobody wants to do it. As you said, it's like, and yet I always say to my clients, if you don't celebrate the small wins, you won't have big wins to celebrate. So it's just those little, but I love that you shared that. That's just so fun. And that you get a choice. When the other voice comes back, when the critical or the sabotaging or whatever, how do you handle that? Do you remind yourself, okay, we've, gone time to go back to the mirror, or how would you handle that?
I think that's kind of where I go to what you were talking about. Listening to it and getting a sense of what it's trying to tell me, appreciating the message. And in that appreciation, that's what silences the voice. Because that voice really just wants to be heard and acknowledged.
Actually, and what's interesting is that it's only by giving it the opposite. It's almost like a bully, isn't it? It's only by standing up to the bully, if you like, and going, stand to one side, I love you. So, I love you. You're giving yourself that. But it's only by doing that then the bully is kind of really going to show up. Otherwise, it can just sort of stay in the background and just quietly keep on coming up behind you. But I love for you. You're like, okay, I'm taking control now. I'm driving the ship and this is how I'm going to, acknowledge myself and love myself. And this is what I'm going to do. I love that you're standing up for that. And that's
It's also, the phrase is, I love you. And as we all know, the power of love to overcome hatred, fear, fill in the blank, whatever your favorite low vibration emotion is, love overcomes all of that. So when you start, even if you don't really feel it yet, when you start using the word associated with that feeling and giving it to that voice that's been torturing the heck out of you, it creates a disharmony within the voice. All of a sudden, the voice is now getting a vibration it did not have before.
It's so true. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you're basically, it's kind of like countering a wave. Like you have a wave that comes through it. If you send a wave in the opposite direction, they kind of cancel each other out.
It's so true. And it's almost like I think of, are you parents? Or do you have children? Do you have children, Jennifer?
No.
It's much like, if you've got a child or a teenage 14-year-old daughter, that would be the one. But you've got that voice that's saying this and this and this, and little children and I hate you, mommy, and blah, 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 blah. And, if you come to that with, I love you. I love you. I hear you. And I love you. And you're just validating and loving, then just as you've said, that voice gets discordant.
It does.
It sort of, it's like it is a discord. It can only go on so long. Mm. And that's really what it is. And yet, because I talk so much about how we parent ourselves, whereas if that voice within, where like, you shouldn't feel that way. You should be really positive. You should never talk to yourself like that. It's like saying that to a child and they're going to just argue with you. Mm-hmm. But as you said, you just come to that with absolute love. Yeah. It's beautiful.
And the word should too. I love how one of my favorite phrases is don't should all over the place.
Oh, God, yes. Oh.
And when you're describing the way you're describing, I think to myself, by having that little phrase, don't should all over the place, and having it in my conscious to semi-conscious mind, I now am aware anytime I find myself thinking should something, I should do this, I should be doing that. I hear it consciously. And by hearing it consciously, I can stop myself and say, I'm shoulding again. How do I rephrase that? What can I turn that into? And so I get out of the trap in a way that I couldn't get out before because I didn't realize I was in a trap.
Yeah, it's such a trap. The should trap is an awful trap.
Oh, yes. It haunts an awful lot of us.
And it doesn't bear results. If it got anybody anywhere to get them where they wanted to go.
Well, that's part of actually does bear some results. I mean, there's always a payoff. It's not necessarily a healthy payoff.
No,
but there's always a payoff. Otherwise,
the payoff is
you wouldn't keep doing it, right?
100%. I get to carry on feeling guilty.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. And what's
I get
the
to
payoff
justify
for that?
it. I can justify that now all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. It's amazing.
Sophie,
I love this.
Will you tell us a little bit about your book, Gorgeously Green? Like, I'm so curious. I just want to hear you talk about the book a little bit and walk us through. Yeah.
Well, it's an old book. Don't forget, Jennifer. It was written, it launched in 2008. So I just want to be very clear about that. Yeah. But it was, I would imagine that you love to all of you, or you're interested or aligned with the sort of with manifesting, right, and creating your reality. Mm-hmm. And so this really was an example of that, because I had this idea and I was so passionate about it, and I didn't know how. I didn't know how to get from A to B. No idea. It was like, I've got this idea. I'm going to write a proposal. I know what I want to write in it. I know I just know the content. Never written a book before, ever. And then this is, how I manifest, is that it's like, okay, so I'm so connected to this passion, and this purpose and this thing that I believe is, I'm just in flow when I'm thinking about it and when I'm writing about it. And so I will get into inspired action and I will just do it and do it and do it and do it. Right. This isn't really answering your question, I know, Jennifer, but I just felt called to explain this process. And so I just did it. I just showed up every single day. I just showed up, and I had to keep surrendering the how, because if I had got too caught up in, well, how am I going to sell this? How am I going to get an agent? How am I going to get a publisher? I don't know anybody. I live in Los Angeles. All the literary agents are in New York. How am I going to sell it, you know,
Yeah.
but I just absolutely just surrendered that. And it was just like I got on and did, you know, what was in front of me. And then, but at the same time, I held this vision, which was more of a feeling of feeling that this book was really going to have a very, very, very wide audience. And I was very, very committed to that. It was like, that is my desire. I don't see this as being a little niche book in Barnes and Noble sitting in the gardening section. I see this as being, you know, really reaching women kind of globally. And that's it. And then I just did it, and I showed up and I took the action, and it was amazing how, you know, the you know, in creative intelligence just put all those pieces together, brought the right people in the right time. And there was a time when, you know, when I was writing it, my husband said, well, I was crying one night at the kitchen table, just going, I'm just so frustrated with this. You know, nobody's not going to get this, to read this into the hands of the people. And he just said, look, you know, even if we have to sell it from the trunk of my car at the local farmer's market, we'll get it out. Don't worry. We'll get it out there. And I got a really supportive husband, and he's just emotionally incredibly supportive. And so anyway, the powers that be, you know, the thing just got it into the hands of Oprah, and the rest is history. Yeah. So the actual book itself, to answer your question, is really, it's just simple steps. So it's simple steps to live a greener way of life. And I kept it really simple. And actually it's a good reminder for me, because I tend as a researcher to want to complicate things. I think that's my Achilles heel, is that there's so much that I want you to know that I just tend to put too much in to everything I do. Mm-hmm. And so what was really great was that I had a wonderful editor, which was my husband. And I was talking him through the book, every single thing that I would say, he would say, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I go, well, I'm explaining it to you. And he's like, no. And he would go back to almost being like channeling his parents in South Georgia, sitting there, not having kind of any understanding or inclination towards this. And he's got it, like, it's got to pass the Joe and Bobby test. It's got to pass the Joe and Bobby and Georgia test. And I'm like, okay, I'll try again. And he's like, no, still too complex. Boil it down. I want 3 actions that I can take. Okay. And that was the process that we did. And actually it's reminded me, because I spent like 10 years doing TV segments. On, you know, crafting TV segments for all sorts of different, you know, TV shows. And it was the same thing. You know, the night before, I'd say to my husband, can I just go through it with you? And he'd go, sure. Like, okay, sitting in the kitchen, everything happens at our kitchen table. He's like, okay, go on, hit it. But his patience would be so thin that I knew that I had 4 minutes to if I could get him in 4 minutes, I'd nailed it. And so he's been amazing for me, because he's just helped me with my complex ideas and my passion to want to tell you everything. So I got to get that message. And he would even say, okay, I'm Joe and Bobby. Not only that, but I'm totally distracted. I'm cooking. I'm on my social media. I'm on my iPad. I am not, you still have to get through to me.
Were you coaching before you wrote the book, or did that come after?
I've coached for a long time. I've been a mindset coach for many, many years, actually, for really almost 30 years. And so that's something that's always been my love. And I've done it in many different capacities, mentorship, you know, very much in a volunteer capacity as well. And so that was, then I sort of put more of my writing researcher hat on of those years of writing. And then I think I just came full circle to, in the last 3 years, really, to like, no, my biggest joy and love of my life is really coaching, because there's only so much that I think that you can really learn in a book or a YouTube video or something like that. It can definitely be a little, you know, spark that can go off. But my true joy is really helping women to really find a deeper transformation. So that's why I love coaching.
Yeah.
What's your driving factor with coaching? What is it that you love that just makes you say, yeah, this is what I really enjoy doing?
I think it's that I love to see the shift. I love to experience and see or facilitate, because it really is not, you know, I can't drive that. I mean, you know, we're there as in coaching, because it's interesting because I sort of almost wear two different hats, because I have my consultant hat, which is my nutritional consultant. And then there's my coaching hat. And they're two very, very different hats to wear, even within one session with a client. So the nutritional coaching is obviously, here's what needs to happen and here's what you need to do. But then coaching is really sitting back and really listening. And as we've all spoken about today, and Jennifer, you mentioned, is getting that hunch, getting that inspiration, which I believe can only really arise through being very present. And it's being very present with another human being, so present that you can hear something or see something that they can't. And so I love having the ability to stand outside somebody else's story and being able to see what that is and see their blind spots and help them to edit that and change that story, and that facilitate, therefore, a shift. And that's really what I love to do more than anything else in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
me too. Does that sound familiar, Jennifer?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and I was just saying with a girlfriend yesterday, when there was a moment where a client of mine had an epiphany, I energetically stall programs, so to speak. So I work on distant healing level, and then I also psychologically help clients process what's happening as I'm doing it. But there was a moment yesterday where that client had a breakthrough, and I get so happy. Like, it's like I win the lottery. I'm like, yes, I won the lottery every time. And so as you're talking, like, that's my cup of, to use your word, Walt, love, every day is when I do have those breakthroughs with clients. There's nothing that feels better to me. So that's when I know that I'm in alignment with my purpose and doing what I'm supposed to be doing here at this time anyways. I'm not a fortune teller, but at this time anyways. So yeah.
That's so true. And I think also because I always have mentors and coaches, I always have had since I was, since I was in my late teens, and those mentors and coaches, and the right one comes in at the right time, and they have dramatically shifted and shaped my life and given me those paradigm shifts when I needed them along the way. And I still get coached because I really believe that unless I'm participating in that part of my journey of evolving, then it's really hard to give that away to somebody else. So as you were talking, Jennifer, I was thinking, yeah, it's so true. It's loving seeing the shift in a client. But I think my ability to do that is because I experience those shifts within myself and have to, because I've never got it down. Never. Never have I got it down. Never have I realized. Never have I figured it out. Ever. I'm just figuring it out.
I feel really in alignment with you, because even in my book, I write about how I travel all over the world, still do, to find different healers and energy workers and coaches, because we never get it done. We never finish learning anything. So there's always more layers to peel back and to expose and to become raw and to keep educating ourselves, and 100%. So I'm 45 now, and I was looking at your website, and it's like you coach women over 45. And I'm like, okay, I fit into Sophie's bracket. I will. Just hit that age. So yeah.
You're so beautiful. I mean, you'll be in every way, you're just, just beautiful inside and out.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Sam, I want to ask Sam, because when we were talking about, or specifically Sophie, when you were talking about how you've always had mentors and coaches in your life, and I know some of the coaches and mentors that have been in Sam's life, but Sam, do you find yourself relying on coaches and mentors as you journey through your life?
In the past, like up until this point, I have definitely felt like I have, but currently I, in a way, could be relying on them more, because there's a program that that has coachings each month, and I kind of forget to use them. But it's nice to have the resources available as they are. So kind of yes and no.
Yeah, it's easy to skip the coaching part, skip the mentoring part, right?
You need to set a little timer in your phone, Sam. It goes off on your calendar in your phone, so it's going off to remind you. Yeah. The hour before the appointment.
Right. Yeah, I just keep forgetting to schedule them. It's like, because it's on us to schedule them, and I'm like, okay, great, I'll do it. And then it's like, oh, wait, all of a sudden it's the next month.
So I guess what you got to do is you have to take the phone to schedule a time for you to schedule things on your phone.
Exactly.
So you can
one notification to schedule, another for when it is scheduled, and it's.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point is that it's very easy to forget this part. I mean, I'm really very grateful for the fact that I've been doing the show all these years, because I get wonderful people like Sophie and Jennifer and Sam on my podcast, and I learn from all these great people coming through. So it's kind of like built in. But before I did the podcast, I didn't really rely on mentors or coaches either. And I think there are a lot of people who fall into that category, and unless you've got the habit going, that's just another habit. You gotta kind of, push it along a little bit before you get it going. I mean, Sophie, you talked about how you've had it all your life. That all sounds easier. It's like, it's always been there.
Well, yeah, but I think the danger is always when I can slip into the mindset of I've got it figured out mindset. And so for me, it's always, it's a much more, being receptive to the wisdom that is not my own wisdom is the most important thing. That's when I'm really carried, whether that wisdom comes through somebody else or whether it comes through what I'm listening to in meditation, but it's really being receptive for that. And for me, it's really being humble enough to really go all the time, I need that, because I need, just as much as I love helping clients to see their blind spots and their stories, I need somebody to see mine as well, because there are a lot of them. And the day that I think, oh, I'm just, spiritually realized and I don't have those anymore, that ain't happening in that lifetime for me. And I'm not sure that I would trust anybody who said that they were either. So I just really enjoy being on this journey with helping people, who I can help, and being helped by people who are very skilled at doing that too. So it's just like a continual, beautiful sort of process.
That's the researcher's curiosity, what you're describing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's absolutely. I am eternally curious to learning and growing constantly.
That's a beautiful thing. I got to tell you, as usual, we have so many wonderful guests who come onto the show, and we're continuing our track record here because you're also a really wonderful guest. Tell people a little bit about your masterclass, because I know that that's something that you want to encourage more and more people to take advantage of.
Sure, it's a masterclass. It's free. And you can just hop onto my website and you can watch it. And on the masterclass, I just simply go over I call them the 5 essential shifts for women to lose unwanted pounds and to thrive in optimal health. And, the reason why I created these shifts, because we talked a lot about shifts today, was that I think sort of being in the wellness space, and particularly when I did a lot of, TV segments and seeing all of the, gurus and experts and whatever, and particularly, new year, new you, this is, what you need to do. And I really was able to sit back and observe and research. And that researching mind was like, this isn't working for most people. So what really does, and I found what works for me. I'm 58. So I'm, kind of moved through a menopause and moved through a lot of those years of kind of dreading what that might hold for Jennifer. You're just at the beginning of that journey. And so that's really what it boiled down to. It's like I really did a lot of research on working with women, and I'm like, I believe that these are the 5 things that really matter when it comes to having a transformative result.
That's fabulous. Well, gotta thank you very much for joining us. One thing I do want to tell you that I tell to all of our guests, because I think it's really, really important, and it's not something that we get attention for, but we really should. You, like so many people, are a giver, and in your giving, there are many people you've never met, you'll never see, you'll never meet them, who have heard you on podcasts, they've read your book, they've taken part of your master class, they've done a variety of things, and you don't see what goes on with them. Yeah. But you've touched their lives and you've helped them in ways that you'll never know about, but you've helped them. And I think it's important to be recognized for that. So thank you on their behalf for all that you've been doing, for all those people you've never met and you'll never see.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was really beautiful, and I will absolutely receive that in my heart. So thank you. and thank you for doing what you do, and all of you. And it's just such a delightful conversation to speak with like-mindeds. And I cannot get over your kitty cat is literally there now.
He is trying
fully present, almost looking into the camera.
He's totally present. Absolutely totally present.
He's so present. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So one final thought. Jennifer, I'm going to go to you for the final thought for the day. I want you to try to tie together what we've been talking about. If you put like a bow on top of it, how would you tie everything together here today?
Well, I think it's just not to be naive to the outside world, to respond to it authentically, to not be in denial of anything, like you were saying earlier, right? Especially with, only focusing in on the positive mantras and so on and so forth, to really engage with life authentically, but then to self-reflect as opposed to deflect. So it's about going inside and truly wanting to heal from the inside out, so that what we're seeing on the outside is no longer triggering us in the same way.
That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. So thank you, Sophie Uliano. Thank you, Jennifer and Sam. Thank you, live streamers. Thank you to podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye.
Thank you.